So today's notes are about 4 different postulates, and all 4 of these postulates actually prove that triangles are congruent. So the first one is called side, side, side. The second one is side, angle, side. The third one is angle, side, angle. And the fourth is angle, angle, side. There are others that you try to put together, but these are the 4 that actually show congruence. So the first one, side, 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 clearly you're looking at 3 sides of triangles. So when it says side, 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 what they're saying is all 3 sides match. So you have 3 sets of congruent sides. So it says if 3 sides of one triangle are congruent to the corresponding 3 sides of another triangle, then the triangles are congruent. So if you look, you have side AB is congruent to DE, BC is congruent to EF, and AC is congruent to DF. And if you have those 3 statements, then you would say triangle ABC is congruent to triangle DEF by SSS, or side, side, side. And I'd like to just say it's important to note right here that once you know they're congruent, you can actually draw some conclusions from that. So I know that since they're congruent, angle B will be congruent to angle E. So we know that that's true, because corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent, and those are corresponding parts, just like angle A is congruent to angle D because they are corresponding. And then of course angle C will be congruent to angle F. So that's just a conclusion you could draw depending on what you're being asked to prove later. The second one is side, angle, side. It says if 2 sides in the included angle of one triangle are congruent to the corresponding 2 sides in included angle of another triangle, then the triangles are congruent. The included angle connects the congruent sides, and you can see that they have side AB is congruent to side DE, and then the angle between that side and side BC is the same angle that's between the corresponding sides here. So we have angle B is congruent to angle E, and it's the included angle. It's the one between the 2 sides, and it says down here that it's kind of like it connects the 2 congruent sides, you know. So if you can imagine that if this side matches this side matches this side, and they're opened up the same angle, then that means that this side is going to have to match this side. So if that's true, then we're back up to side, 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 and we have congruent triangles. So if you can do that, then you would actually say, well, we don't have to actually go to this third side. We can just say it from saying side, angle, side by itself. So that is one of the postulates. And then from that, if you were asked to say, well, what about angle A? What's angle A congruent to? Well, if they are congruent triangles, then I know angle A must be congruent to the corresponding angle, and that would be angle D, because corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. And if they had asked about, well, what about angle C? Then I would say angle C is corresponding to angle F, so angle C must be congruent to angle F because, again, corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. CPCTC. Okay, the third one is angle, side, angle. And you'll notice this time it's angle, then side, then angle. So it is the side between 2 of the angles. You won't have angle, angle, and then some other random side. You do down here, it's the next theorem. But up for this one, it has to be the included side. So that's what it says up here. If 2 angles in the included side of one triangle are congruent to the corresponding 2 angles in the included side of another triangle, the triangles are congruent. And so again, we would know that this is going to happen because this is a fixed angle, this is a fixed angle. These have to match. So I know that this side will be congruent to this side will be congruent to this side, and this angle, these 2 plus this one must add up to 180, so these 2 plus this one must add up to 180, so these 2 must also be the same. And it just depends on what you're asked when you actually do a proof. But you can start from knowing just angle, side, angle, and you can get any other congruent statement you need. The fourth one is angle, angle, side. So notice the side is outside of the 2 angles on this one, so it's angle, angle, side. Angle, angle, side. As opposed to the one up above, which is angle, side, angle. And you see this one has an included side. This one does not have an included side. says if two angles and a non-included side of one triangle are congruent to the corresponding two angles and side of a second triangle, the two triangles are congruent. So this is your angle side, and again, you can make all kinds of conclusions because of CPCTC. Corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. And y'all will be, when you're working on the proofs, be given a card that looks like this, and it's the summary sheet. These are the 4 postulates you actually need to know. So it describes what it is, and it has a picture to help you recognize it. You won't be using this sheet on the test, but you're welcome to use it during class. There should be enough yellow copies for each of you to have one, and then a set of pink ones to actually stay in the classroom. So please don't let those actually leave the classroom. Leave them behind for the next class just in case.